I love that. I love the fact that he made a commitment early in his career that I'm going to be authentic and I'm not going to do my work based on how I think someone's going to react. Because I'm going to have people that are critics that don't like it. But if I'm not authentic, I'm never going to find any audience.
You're listening to Let Me Speak to a Manager with Frank Cava and Ian Mathews.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, that was hot mic, Sam.
It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Frankie!
You sneaky son of a bitch. You just changed your background from Braveheart to Ron Burgundy.
Ooh, you like my new painting up there?
How did you pull that off? That is not a new painting. You did something with AI.
I actually didn't. I have a Ron Burgundy painting on my opposite wall that's never on camera. I always had the Braveheart behind me, so I just went and flip-flopped them given the context of what we're going to be talking about today.
Sneaky.
Yeah. So, you think you know someone in life. Frankie and I have been friends since 2005, and I feel like I know Frank really well. And last week he put together a half-ass AI agenda of like summer blockbusters or something, and you could tell he put almost zero time into it. And I said, why don't we pick a couple of movies that we like and really deep dive into them and see if there's some lessons to be learned. And so
that's actually what I said to you. You're stealing my entire thought idea. Like initiative around here is never, ever rewarded.
Not exactly how it happened, but he triggered me to think about movies. And so I started putting together an outline for Anchorman, one of my absolute favorite movies. I have 3 posters in my office. One of them is Anchorman. And so I started doing the homework and I got on with Frank and I said, hey, I'm close. I've got an outline. I'm pretty close on here on Anchorman. And he goes, I've never seen that movie. And, if you're listening at home here and judging by the viewership numbers, you're not. But those that are, you probably are just as shocked as I am that Frank is one of the few red-blooded Americans in this country that has not seen the movie Anchorman. It is incredibly disappointed. I'm sad, but I'm hoping that this agenda is going to motivate him on his long flight to San Sebastian to watch one of the greatest works of art America has ever put out.
I'm going to be sleeping on that plane ride. I'm not watching on the way there, but I hear your impassioned plea. I also didn't see Step Brothers and I watched Talladega Nights once and I thought it was terrible. So that's about where I lost. I checked out with Will Ferrell, but I did see Elf and I loved it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, you definitely say some things that have become part of the lexicon of American culture. There are so many lines in this movie that Frank has used with me, which made
one of my favorite cities in America is known as Whale's Vagina.
Yes, absolutely. So Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy came out in 2004. It is as satire as satire gets. It was co-written by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. What's important about this movie, this was the first script that Ferrell wrote. Adam McKay was like the lead writer on Saturday Night Live while Will was there. So Will left Saturday Night Live. He didn't know what he was going to do. He just knew that his time had kind of come at Saturday Night Live. He was the biggest star on there and he was there long enough where he wanted to do something else. But this was the first script they wrote. Even though this isn't the first movie, you're probably saying, oh, well, Old School, I remember that came out before. It did, and I'm going to get into that in a second, but this is the first script they really started pushing when they came out. So the budget was kind of cheap by today's standards, about $25 million, but box office blew it out for Anchorman. It did 85 million domestic, 90 million worldwide. It opened at number 2. It's beyond a cult following now. It's a blockbuster as blockbusters get. Roger Ebert, your boy, Frank, gave it 3 stars out of 4. And Ebert is kind of famous by saying comedies are easy. They either make me laugh and I give them a good number. If they don't make me laugh, there's no thinking about it later. If it didn't make me laugh, it's not a comedy. That's kind of the way he looks at it.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look at you using lines that you are Googling as we speak right now.
Hey, careful. I'm a glass case of emotion right now.
Roger Ebert says that sometimes the key to satire is to stay fairly close to the source. And Anchorman works best when it's only a degree or two removed from the excesses of the real thing. And he also says, I've known and worked with a lot of anchor persons over the years, and I can tell you that almost all of them are good people, smart professionals who don't take themselves too serious. But every once in a while, you get a Ron Burgundy, and you kind of treasure him because you can dine out on the stories for years. And I think that's a beautiful way of explaining this movie, because 20 years later, we all still use lines from it.
Anchor person. It's not anchor person. It's not anchor. It's anchor man, not anchor lady. That is scientific fact.
So for Frank, because, he's just reading lines now from my outline, I'm not
reading your outline at all. You know me better than that.
I am going to share the trailer from this movie.
Hot. How much time?
You're on.
I love scotch. I love scotch. Scotch. Here it goes down into my belly. That is good.
You're on the air.
How are you? You look awfully nice tonight. Maybe don't wear a bra next time. Till we're on.
We're on, Ron.
What?
We're on the air right now.
I'm ready. Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy. Here's what's going on in your world tonight.
It was the 1970s.
Looking good, San Diego.
In a simpler time,
Hey, Garth, how's the divorce? Oh, not so good. I'll probably never see my kids. Fantastic.
it took a simpler man
Follow leads, confirm sources. Real journalism, my friend.
Great. Right on. Now, what's a lead?
to deliver the news.
I have some very urgent and important breaking news. Cannonball!
Will Ferrell is Ron Burgundy,
Who's that handsome devil?
a Californian so popular
You stay classy, San Diego.
he could have been governor.
Hey, I like that Sandy.
Oh, Mr. Burgundy.
Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgundy.
Burgundy did it! I am! Oh! Ron Burgundy is down and it is bad!
So this movie, I can't ask Frank when he saw it first or second or third, but something you need to watch with the boys very soon. They are old enough where they will laugh along with you for most of this movie. I wouldn't watch Anchorman 2 with them. Fun fact, I took my 4-year-old to see Anchorman 2, and there were some absolutely raunchy sex jokes throughout that entire movie, and I was getting a lot of dirty looks from parents because every time people would laugh in the movie theater, IJ was on like a 5-second delay where they would laugh and then he would pause, it would get quiet, and then you'd hear a 4-year-old start laughing really loud because he wanted to be like the adults. And every time I would get dirty looks from all the adults of, how did you bring this kid to this movie?
Ian, I will do my best to see this movie, but as you know, I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany.
So first lesson from Anchorman that I love, and something Frank and I have talked about often on this. It is much easier to be gritty and resilient and stick to something when you work with people you like. So Ferrell and Adam McKay have been friends for a long time. They worked together since the mid-90s. This movie came out in 2004, but they got hired at the same time. They were friends for a long time. And when they started pitching this movie, it was just getting a bunch of blank stares. People were like, you want to make a movie about news anchors? And the Ferrell looks back on it and says, Adam and I just had so much fun pitching it. It was almost funny bombing some of the times because I was working with someone that I respected and that I liked. And I, I think, Frank, you and I have both sort of set up our lives where at this point we only work with people that we really like and that we only do things that we think are fun. You had a really cool post where um, you talked about the song by Luke Combs about what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. And I kind of think Anchorman happened. If it would have been just a professional thing and a young guy trying to make money and had to pay the bills, he probably wouldn't have stuck with this. He probably would have he would have been disenfranchised early. But the fact that he was working with a friend is, a testament to how this thing got done.
I think, yeah, I'm trying to answer every single thing you say with a quote, but I don't have a good one for that. So having people in your life, something we all both listen to from time to time, it talks about the difference between like being really fun and edgy, being edgy and kind of having fun, right? Like an example of this is I think in a world of creatives, it matters who you're working with, and you can kind of look at like think about where drug use is most prevalent. You're wearing a Guns N' Roses shirt. I just read an article about Guns N' Roses a couple of days ago from their like most debaucherous era, and during their most debaucherous era, like it was a mess. It was drugs, but it was also creative, right? In that world, you have to be incredibly creative. We talked on our last episode about like in recessions when you have to kind of be like just bare knuckles and you have to be ruthless. So think about professional sports. The Patriots were ruthless for 15 to 20 years. There is a trade that the Boston Celtics just recently made where they traded away arguably their best player, Jason. They kept Jason Tatum, but they traded, why am I drawing a blank in his name? Can you help me with it? Do you remember?
Jaylen Brown?
Jaylen Brown. They traded Jaylen Brown. But did that remind you of anything, like when they traded him? It reminded me immediately of something you and I texted about 20 years ago.
No.
When the Patriots got rid of Seymour, everyone was like, oh my God, they got rid of this guy. He's amazing. He's a perennial All-Pro. Why did they do it? And they did it maybe a year or two before he started to dip down. And because they were ahead of it, they got the absolute highest value. Jaylen Brown just had his best season ever. In a world of incredibly competitive things like sports, you need to be really on top of that stuff, and you can't really have friends or great relationships. You have to look at what's the bottom line. But in a creative environment, you need to surround yourself with people, or eventually you get to a point where you can surround your people with people you like and things you really enjoy doing. But in the beginning, when you're trying to make a name for yourself, you can't always get away with that.
Love that. So second point that I want to make about this movie is Frank and I have talked about the importance of a shitty first draft. I wrote for a long time. I wrote for several years. I wrote for Forbes. And you can kind of get writer's block and you can get yourself stuck to where you can start. And one of the most important things you can do in any venture and anything, and I build training programs today. I have to build keynotes. It's so important to just get moving and get started. And 20 years later, Ferrell looks back and laughs at it and says, the first version of Anchorman is basically the movie Alive, where the year is like 1976 and we're a bunch of news anchors flying to some convention and we crash and we're all stuck in the mountains. And looking back on it, he's like, yeah, the first script kind of sucked. We kind of put it together. So part of the process of going and trying to pitch their movie, they were getting a lot of feedback and hearing, and as they listened to that feedback, they were making changes and tweaks. But I think the important thing is here, they started. It wasn't gold right out of the gate. They were starting a new venture. They were starting it together. And even though it wasn't gold, they were moving. They had this concept. They were kind of advancing the ball a little bit. And that concept of the shitty first draft, I think I was less like this when I worked for big companies than I am in my life today, where everything I do is kind of directly tied to one of my businesses. It is so important to just get started, test it, try it, and move forward a little bit. The original script is so horribly bad. It wouldn't have been what Anchorman was, but it got them started. They didn't They didn't just come out with a perfect novel right out of the gate.
So I'm going to tell a funny story. The other day I was walking around the neighborhood with Manny. He was on his bike. And I'm in my 50s and I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, right? So I'm late to the game of parenting. I'm probably a little bit less emotional. I'm probably a little bit less energetic than I would have been if I was a younger parent. But Manny is decent on a bike. Max is really good on a bike. But Manny's good on a bike, but not great. And we're just literally pedaling down the street, and like all of a sudden he just wipes out and he scrapes his knee. And I just looked at him and I said, he was hurt and he was like, he couldn't really pedal. It was kind of, he scraped his knee. And I just looked at him and said, all right, let's get back on the bike. And he looked at me. He goes, okay, Dad. And like he was pedaling, he goes, my leg kind of hurts, Dad. I'm like, I know. Why don't you pedal ahead of me, go home and get yourself an ice pack? And he did. And he pedaled his ass off. He beat me. He was safe. He did the way he's supposed to do it. He goes in. I come home and he's crying with my wife because he cried after the fact. But he got the ice pack. He did his cry. But the most important thing for me was he got back on the bike and we didn't have to worry about it. I have to carry him back like he pedaled. And then 5 minutes went by. His knee was iced. I said, want to go do another lap? And he goes, yep, I do. And we just went right back out. So like sometimes not emotionally reacting to certain things and cutting things off and giving yourself the ability to kind of go through that process really matters. It's not about getting it right. There's a saying that I've heard recently that I like. Don't be right, get it right. It's not where you start, it's where you end. And I think that's just hugely critical.
So before Anchorman happened, Anchorman was their first idea, but before Anchorman could happen, he got turned down 20 times on this script. Everyone shit on it. Everyone made fun of it. Everyone said it was terrible. This isn't going to get done. Even as big of a comedy star as Will Ferrell was, his baby got turned down. And so he took a job as an actor in Old School. He did not write Old School. He did not produce Old School. He was a steward of someone else's idea. And Old School killed it. Old School did $90 million. Is a hilarious movie. It on like a budget of $20 million, massive success. And he was like the surprise star of the movie. He stole that movie, even though he wasn't the lead character. He was a side character. The most memorable by far scenes in Old School are Will Ferrell's scenes. He owns the movie.
It just tastes so good when it hits your lips.
Frank the Tank is an iconic character. And so now Wall Street's turning their head.
We're going streaking across the quad.
They're saying, wow, that, irreverent kind of stupid guy just made $70 million profit at the box office. People like this. They came out to see that star. And not until that happened was he able to get Anchorman approved and funded. Now, all of a sudden, he had success. Hey, this Anchorman seems kind of funny. And I find that, Frank, in a career, success begets more success. Sometimes you might have a great idea. You might think you're ready for something, but you just haven't shown proof. I've talked about this before. I didn't have anyone asking to invest in real estate with me until I did a deal myself and was getting paid on it. And even then, I wasn't out marketing to get investors. I had people calling me and saying, hey, next time you find one of those collision centers, can you call me if you need investors? I didn't have realtors calling me with deals until I did a deal. It wasn't even enough that I had money. I couldn't get anyone to return my call when I was trying to do a real estate deal because I hadn't done one. But once I did one, success begets more success. If you have to go out and figure out a way to get a W first. You need a win sometimes for your better ideas to get accepted. And some of those early wins just need to be grinding. Will Ferrell, as an employee, as an actor in another movie, led to him starting to write his own movies, produce his own movies, where the big hits were. That's where he really made his money, on the Step Brothers, on Talladega Nights, on a lot of the ones where it was his baby. He didn't get that until he was willing to go grind and get some wins for other people.
So I'm going to kind of go backwards a little bit on what you were saying a second ago and kind of get into the failure first, right? So Florida just got themselves a new football coach, and I've been kind of going down a rabbit hole listening to some of the things he talks about, and I really like his mindset. He doesn't spend a lot of time bitching about NIL. What he talks about is what you're going to get if you come to the University of Florida. And he talks about you're going to be the top 5 to top 7 public university. What we do with you from the standpoint of making sure you're ready post-career really matters. And he goes, and if you don't love football, don't come here. He goes, if you don't want to get coached hard, don't come here. Go somewhere else because you're not going to do well here. Like, we're going to give you amazing things. He goes, I have one of the top 5 university job, one of the top 5 coaching jobs in all of NCAA sports. And he kind of comes from that perspective. But these are a couple of quotes that I pulled out of some interviews that he said that I just absolutely love. Failure is not fatal. It can lead to becoming fatal, but one failure isn't fatal. Growth comes from setback. You get a sentence out of a win and you get a chapter out of a loss. So think about those setbacks and what Will Ferrell dealt with in not getting Anchorman built and started. He recalibrates, he gets into something, and he shows up and he's his absolute best. If this is another quote I love. Know your role, embrace your role, be a star in your role, and your role will grow. Will Ferrell had an opportunity to go into somebody else's movie, and he crushed. And all those little things then to kind of spun out for him into a way that was incredibly positive that he couldn't see coming.
So Will Ferrell was on the Up and All the Smoke podcast, which is a favorite of mine. And
what's it called?
It's called All the Smoke.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of former NBA players.
Yeah.
They had him on there, and they were asking what keeps him motivated. What does he get? Does he have self-doubt? What do the critics do? And he had a really good answer that I want to share now.
Being able to stay.
But I think I had like the best thing to happen to me in my first show of my first season of Saturday Night Live. These reviews came out and they were pretty scathing toward. I had one some magazine or whatever that wrote, like, they were analyzing this new cast because we were pretty much a brand new cast, and they singled me out by name. That was the good news. The bad news was like most annoying newcomer.
Damn.
Yeah, right away after my first show. So I'm like looking at this and I thought, well, I'm already at a crossroads right out of the gate. So I can either sit and cry. And so what I did was, you talk about bulletin board material. I just put it up on the wall of my office and just clipped it out. And I was like, okay, you want to see annoying? I'm gonna be even more annoying. And that's, I had always kind of made a commitment to, because there's so many funny people out there. It's like, I'm gonna see people that I know are funnier than I am, but they're not gonna out commit me. I'm gonna be the guy who streaks in old school. I'm gonna be the guy who gives like 110%.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah, in terms of my commitment. So I was like, that's what I'm going to lean into, and that will get me through. And you'll find me annoying, maybe, but if I break through that, then I'll be fine. So
I love that. I love the fact that he made a commitment early in his career that I'm going to be authentic, and I'm not going to do my work based on how I think someone's going to react, because I'm going to have people that are critics that don't like it. But if I'm not authentic, I'm never going to find any audience. If I try to please everyone, if Will Ferrell tried to please anyone, he wouldn't do anything that we remember as iconic and funny. Almost none of the Anchorman scenes would have ever got done if he was trying to please every critic. Almost all of his SNL skits would not have been nearly as memorable if he was so worried about offending people.
If you're trying to please everyone, you're going to please no one. That's just how it works. So I read something years ago, 20 at this point, I don't remember, but the 4-Hour Work Week. And he said something in that book that I just didn't really understand, but I understand it really well now. He said the key to success is to have a very, very micro niche. I have a very micro niche. Like, I'm never going to be Bill Gates. They're probably never going to erect a statue in my honor. But I am probably the best in the world at buying distressed single family homes in the city of Richmond for the purposes of rental or sale. Really, it's a lot of words, right? Like, Babe Ruth is the best at hitting the baseball. He gets a statue. I'm really niche. But because I'm really niche, I've been able to find my spot. I think Will Ferrell.
I love
he's
that.
niche.
I love that. You are very niche. I try to be the same when I teach classes. I ask everyone who comes to my class to bring their authentic self.
Yeah.
Don't put on a mask. Don't think you're talking to some corporate trainer. I'm not that. I don't have a degree in this. I'm a dude that's worked for 25 years and I teach classes now. I try to be myself. I try to be self-deprecating. I try to be Ian when I show up. Maybe not all the way Ian all the time, but I'm as close to as authentic myself as I am. And I found that the more I do that, the more the business grows. I don't try to be a different persona than I am. And one other thing I was going to talk about on this agenda, and Frank, that was a dynamite lead in when you said the word erect. This is a scene from Anchorman that I'd like to show you, Frank, that we'll talk about here in a second.
But this is not a date.
No, of course not. Strictly professional.
Wonderful.
Great. So I pick you up 8 o'clock? 9. Downstairs.
Mr. Burgundy, you have a massive erection.
Really? Yes, I do. I'm sorry. It's the pleats. It's actually an optical illusion. It's the pattern on the pants. It's not flattering in the crotchal region. I'm actually taking them back right now. Taking them back to the pants store.
So that scene is a half of a cut off paper towel roll. That's what they've got in his pants, not an actual erection there. But in presenting this, the producers, the Hollywood folks, were adamant he had to cut that scene out. They were adamant. And this is one he fought for. He fought for his idea, his baby. He thought that people were going to really like it. You probably don't get away with that many scenes of that kind of stuff nowadays because people get offended a little easy. But I love him talking about how he stood on business on that and said, nope, the boner scene stays. It's going to work. I've been doing skit comedy my whole life. I know these kind of, this is going to work on the big screen. You've got to let me do it. And he fought for it. And it became one of the more kind of iconic scenes in the movie.
So I'm going to go a different direction with this. Sometimes fighting for it makes sense. And then sometimes what you have to do is you have to call it out, right? Like Christine Applegate at that period in time was super hot. Everybody knows she was super hot. Like she got the role in Married with Children because she was super hot. Like she was a beautiful woman, right? We had a woman who taught us a class in college. The class was steel erection. It was a steel class. And she had just graduated. She's maybe 2 or 3 years older than us. And she was a very attractive woman and in a place where it was just all dudes. So we're in our 21, 22. She goes, the class is steel. So I don't know how to do this. So we're going to be talking about erection. Boys, we're talking about erection for the entire semester. This entire class is going to be about erection, steel erection, whatever kind of erection you need. She said the word erection about 75 times in about the first 4 minutes of the class. It was no longer funny. She got in front of it, dealt with it, and there it was. And then the rest of the class, she could talk about what she needed to. So from his perspective, it was make sure that joke gets in there because he's trying to communicate. But if you're trying to communicate a point of something, sometimes you have to drill it home in a way that allows you to be effective at communicating with the same word.
And I'm going to end this episode on it. He wasn't always stubborn on everything. So like I said, his first script was a totally different thing with the news. It was going to be more like a plane crash kind of thing. He changed that over time. He listened. Also, the first test screen they did, the ending got a terrible score. the audience was like, it's awful. Like the way they initially had to set up, a bunch of vigilantes stole his love interest, and they had to go storm the castle to get her back, and the audience was like, this is kind of a stupid ending. So everything that now with the zoo scene, with the pandas, with the bears, it's kind of an iconic, funny ending. That was all rewritten, reshot, everything. So Will wasn't so stubborn that he wouldn't take feedback, at least from customers. And some of those changes ended up making the movie what it is.
I'm really pissed, Ian. You didn't say spoiler alert for any of this. Like, now I know how it ends.
You don't. I didn't tell you exactly how it ends. So there's still plenty that you can kind of get into. But for all of you, if any of you are as lame as Frank and have not seen Anchorman, I need you to go out and see it. And I want to hear from you in the comments. How lame do you think it is that Frank, at the age of 51, has not seen Anchorman 22 years after it was released? We want to hear from you people.
The real question is Ian as erect as Ron Burgundy was in that scene?
Absolutely not. But I am excited to talk about Anchorman at any given time. Frankie, have a good time in Spain, buddy.
Thanks, brother.